What is going on, guys? We are back here with a patch 9.2 video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting and telling you guys my predictions for the best tanks for Mythic Plus in Season 3 of Shadowlands. Now, every single tank is going to be great. There isn't going to ever be a bad tank. There hasn't ever been a bad tank in Shadowlands yet. But I'm going to be ranking them from the best tank to the 6th best tank. So I'm not going to say the worst tank. I'm going to say the 6th best tank because you could play that one up to any level of key because we've seen it from the highest key pushers. You can play any tank and do great. For the 6th tank, we are going to be putting in Prot Warrior. Now, a lot of you guys might be a little bit surprised from that, but this is just my prediction. So the Prot Warrior 4 set is a okay 4 set. It is one of the, I would say it might be the second worst 4 set of all of the tanks. It increases their damage by a little bit, increases their survivability by a little bit, but overall it's mediocre. It doesn't do anything extremely special from it, so I'm not gonna rant too much about it. They do have great survivability. They are one of the best defensive tanks in the game. Shield Wall, Last Stand, Avatar, all those abilities, Shield Block, all those abilities are extremely good for survivability. They have really good damage. And it's going to seem odd when I'm talking about all the tanks here because I'm going to say a lot of good things about every single tank, and that's why I'm saying that there is no bad tank. But, Prot Warrior does really, really good damage. They have some pretty good group utility. They can Rally and Cry, they have Battle Shout, they have Intervene, which is all really good. They have good CC control with, Charge Root, and they have, Shockwave, they have Stormbolt, a lot of things like that, which increases their CC ability as well. Their double Lego is okay from what I've read, from what I've heard. The Kyrian Legendary is not the greatest. It's not terrible, but it's not the greatest of the Covenant legendaries. And if you run that with Reprisal or the Wall legendary, you're going to be in a pretty good spot. You're going to have great survivability and great damage from running both of those. But it's just the Kyrian legendary isn't the greatest. But if you run any other spec, I'm not really sure. I've just seen that everyone says Kyrian Prot Warrior is the best. Number 5, we are going to be putting in Blood Death Knight. Now, Blood Death Knight is an interesting one. I personally don't like Blood Death Knight, and it's not the reason that it's low on this list by any means. I'm just not a big fan of it, and it struggles in Mythic Plus. Ever since it was nerfed in BFA, it has always struggled in Mythic Plus compared to the other tanks. It requires a lot more skill to play in keys. Their 4 set, we're just going to talk about how good it is. Their 4 set tier set is really good. Having double Dancing Rune Weapon is fantastic. It means more Bone Shield stacks, which just increases your survivability. More, you get more damage out of it, right? Because you're duplicating more of your abilities as well. And then you have, great self-healing from Blood Death Knight. It's the one tank that the healer doesn't necessarily need to focus on. The healer can just really focus on keeping the group alive and damage, unless the tank called for some healing because they're out of CDs or, don't have any runic power. They don't really bring a lot of group utility. They have grips and death grip and stuff like that. They have death and decay slow, which is okay, but they're not really the greatest. Without their 4 set, their damage is kind of low. Their survivability is mediocre compared to the other tanks. Your survivability fully depends on your skill level on a Blood Death Knight. So that's why it's going to stay there. The double legendary isn't the greatest, right? Because you're going to be wanting to run Venthyr, and you're going to run the Dancing Rune Weapon legendary. And then when you compare it with the Swarming Mist legendary, they work together okay, but the benefits that you get from it are mediocre, right? The Swarming Mist legendary has a negative effect to it, which means that you have to play very recklessly with it, and as a result you have a greater chance of dying compared to some of the other Covenant legendaries that are maybe a little bit more boring, but they are and a little bit more weaker, but you have to play an inferior Covenant in Mythic Plus to get one of those. So as a result, their double Lego will be important, but it won't be as strong as some of the other tank classes on this list. Number 4, we are going to be putting Guardian Druid. Now, Guardian Druid was very good in patch 9.1. When the Thrash Legendary was given to Guardian Druids, they became the king of massive pulls. You could run Incarnation and the Thrash Legendary, and for 30 seconds you were virtually unkillable. You could tank any kind of mobs, and we saw it with the MDI that they were very, very, very strong. But outside of their cooldowns, Guardian Druid is very lackluster. You can't pull big. Their survivability is okay, but they don't bring a lot of damage outside of Incarnation. And as a result, we saw other tanks pop out once you started getting to the world first level of keys. We saw other tanks start to pop out over top of the Guardian Druids. Now, Blizzard, rather than trying to fix the Guardian Druid weaknesses, they kind of buffed their strengths. So with their 4 set is good. Their 4 set is a pretty good tier set. It isn't one of the worst ones, but it isn't up there with the greatest ones. Having extra damage and healing on Incarnation, in my opinion, seems worthless because you're already running the Thrash Legendary, and as a result, you are unkillable, right? So yes, that damage is good, but you're already doing crazy amounts of damage. So you're doing more damage, which is fine. Mythic Plus always likes more damage, but the healing, in my opinion, is kind of worthless. And getting Berserk on Barkskin is a great addition, right? But it still forces Guardian Druids to play around cooldowns. When you look at a lot of the other tanks, their 4 sets try and, look at their weaknesses and fix their weaknesses to make sure that they are all around a good tank. Guardian Druid is great with cooldowns and is probably the greatest tank with cooldowns and the worst tank with no cooldowns. So they flip-flop everywhere, and as a result they're going to be in the 4th spot. The reason they're above Blood Death Knight and Prot Warrior though is obviously because with their cooldowns they are unkillable, but most Guardian Druids are going to be running Kyrian, the Kyrian Covenant, and when you give Kyrian, I think it's Kyrian Spirit, Kindred Spirits to your best DPS player in your group, they're going to do even more damage, which is great. You're going to be doing more damage with that buff, and as well as when you combine it with the Thrash Legendary for the double Lego, they're going to be really, really good. They don't bring a lot of good group utility. They bring Typhoon, maybe Ursul's Vortex, Mighty Bash, one of those. But overall, their utility is lackluster. They do bring a little bit of healing, which is fine. Their damage is pretty okay. But overall, they're going to stay, middle of the pack, in my opinion. Number 3 is going to be Vengeance Demon Hunter. Vengeance Demon Hunter is really good. Their 4 set was bugged on the PTR, but Blizzard has since fixed it, and after playing with it, it will do very good damage. It increases Demon Hunter survivability by quite a lot, increases their HPS by quite a lot, which is really, really good. It means in keys they're going to be doing a lot of damage and a lot of healing, which is fantastic with their 4-piece. Their double Lego is okay as well. When you run Blind Faith as well as Fiery Soul, they work in tandem together, which is really, really good. Every time you Leasing Decree, you get extra souls, which you can then use Soul Cleave to reduce the cooldown of your Fiery Brand, which overall increases your survivability, increases your damage. They work really, really well together, which is fantastic. I love when legendaries work well together, considering some of the tank ones don't, and it makes no sense to me. I don't know why Blizzard hasn't fixed it yet. Like I said, their survivability is great. They're tanky. They are very tanky. They do good damage. They have good utility with sigils. And overall, they're going to be a good tank. They're going to be a pretty good tank. At number 2, we are putting Brewmaster. Brewmaster is looking very good for patch 9.2. Their 4 set is one of the best 4 sets out there. And it's only good because of its tuning, not necessarily that the 4 set is broken like some other classes, but its tuning is very good. The extra healing and damage you get from the 4 set is crazy. It actually gives Brewmaster some self-healing on their own, which will be crazy good for keys, right? Brewmaster always struggled with self-healing. That's why they worked really well with Resto Druids, is because the Resto Druid could put the hots on them, which would counteract their stagger. But But with the extra healing from Keg Smash, it will increase their HPS by quite a lot and their survivability by quite a lot. Now, they are the worst tank when it comes to double legendary. The Kyrian legendary for Brewmaster is dog. It is one of, if not the worst Covenant legendaries out there. It just doesn't work correctly. It actually enforces you to save cooldowns rather than use them, which makes no sense to me for Mythic Plus. So that doesn't put them any higher. Honestly, it could put them lower than Vengeance Demon Hunter because of how good the Vengeance Demon Hunter legendaries work in tandem together. But the 4-set is just looking really, really good for Brewmaster. Brewmaster also brings, good utility. They bring Ring of Peace, Paralysis. They also have great mobility with Roll, Chi Torpedo, Transcendence, and things like that. Overall, Brewmaster is looking really good. Also, they bring the physical damage debuff, which is extremely good, considering that Rogues and Survival Hunters are looking very, very good for patch 9.2 as well. So that'll be a plus for Brewmasters, because a lot of people will probably be playing them. At number 1, the best tank for 9.2 Mythic Plus is obviously Prot Warrior. It was the best tank in 9.1, and as a result, it's going to be the best tank in 9.2. The 4-set is the best 4-set out there. I think it's up there with Survival Hunter in terms of how good it is. Having a free judgment every 3 seconds is fantastic. That it gives you free holy power, which increases your Word of Glory healing, increases your survivability with Shield of the Righteous. It's great, right? Obviously, Prot Paladin brings a lot of utility, a lot of damage, a lot of healing. They are extremely tanky. They're overall just the best tank out there right now. Not to mention that their double legendary also works really, really well together. You have the Shield of the Righteous legendary on top of the Divine Toll legendary. Both of those work extremely well together as well. They're just looking really great. I think they're going to be brought in all of the World First Keys unless something changes with their legendary. Not their legendary, their 4-set. If their 4-set does get nerfed, I think it might drop them down a tiny bit, but I highly doubt it considering how dominant they were already in patch 9.1 without double legendaries and without their tier sets. So this is going to be my tier list for patch 9.2 Mythic Plus. If you guys have any opinions on what you guys think the tanks will be, let me know. If you like the video, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button and share this video with a friend. Check out my raid tier list. I also created one for tanks for raid, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.